The American Revolution was an extremely bloody conflict, but it is often seen as a fight against an outside British invader. One does not tend to consider the effects that the war had on those who lived throughout the rebelling colonies. One of these rebelling colonies, North Carolina, actually had a fairly large loyalist population. And this loyalist population often quarreled with the pro-independence patriots. The revolution had neared its end by 1780, but there were still engagements throughout the colonies. In June of 1780, Patriot General Griffith Rutherford was camping near Charlotte, North Carolina, when he heard of a large loyalist force camping at Ramsour's mill near modern Lincolnton. Rutherford immediately ordered his men to march and sent orders to local militia leaders, including Lieutenant Colonel Francis Locke. Locke gathered a force of about 400 cavalry and infantrymen 16 miles northeast of modern Lincolnton. Despite his intelligence showing that the loyalist force was at least 3 times the size of his, Locke decided to attack the next day out of fear that if he had waited for Rutherford, British reinforcements would arrive. By dawn on June 20th, 1780, Locke's force was around a mile from the Loyalist camp. Loyalist leader John Moore had served under Cornwallis at the siege of Charleston and returned to his home near Ramsour's mill and called together a group of about 40 loyalists on June 10th to share instructions from Cornwallis that they should avoid organizing before British troops entered the area. However, Moore learned that a group of about 20 patriots had been looking for Moore among other loyalist leaders. Moore decided to confront the patriots, but could not find them. Therefore, he told his men to return home and rejoin him in a few days at Ramsour's mill. On June 13th, 200 men arrived at the mill, and by the 20th, 1,300 men had gathered. The cavalry leading the Patriot line approached. Sentries stationed along the road began to fire, but eventually retreated. The Patriot cavalry charged the Loyalists, and the Patriots were able to gain control of a ridgeline. General Rutherford, a few miles away from the mill, learned of this action and immediately ordered his men to make haste and sent his cavalry to assist Locke. Even though he had control of the ridge, Colonel Locke was unable to reform his line under the heavy fire and ordered his men to retreat. However, Locke's retreat order was ignored by Captain John Dickey, who led his men to higher ground to enable better marksmanship. When ordered to retreat, Dickey reportedly cursed loudly and stated he would not. Captain Dickey was credited with the victory due to this defiance, and soon the Loyalist line was in disorder. By the time Rutherford reached the battlefield, he was met with a white flag and a Loyalist request of a ceasefire to treat the wounded. Rutherford instead demanded an immediate surrender. As negotiations continued, however, most of the Loyalist force fled, and eventually only around 50 were taken prisoner. The 2-hour-long battle was not fought between regular armies, with family, friends, and even neighbors literally fighting each other. Due to a lack of ammunition, there are even instances of muskets being used as clubs. In one case, Peter Costner, a loyalist, was killed by his own brother, Thomas, whom then proceeded to bury Peter's corpse in the aftermath. Despite being outnumbered 3-1, the battle resulted in a decisive Patriot victory and lowered the morale of loyalists throughout the southern colonies, eventually helping the Patriots to gain full control.